Hey everybody, welcome to April Mediterranean Style. We just thought this would be a great opportunity to share a few recipes that are more of that Mediterranean style kind of cooking and prepping. It's obviously a diet that has a lot of science behind it. It's frequently recommended as a healthy way of eating. But what is it, right? It's food from a whole region, from multiple countries. So it's not even just specifically one country. But it is very whole food based. A lot of vegetables. They do have some protein, so they do have some meat. They do have some cheese. Depending on where they're at, they might have some fish. But a lot of vegetables, a lot of flavor, a lot of olive oil. So one of the things that sometimes I think kind of blows past people is it's actually not a low-fat diet just because of how much olive oil they use. But we know olive oil is so good for us. So we are happy to use the olive oil for our own health. We know that's very health giving. So we've got several good recipes here for you today. The first one are going to be some zucchini boats, right? So again, lots of vegetables, but also a lot of flavor. And so what we've done here is I've got two zucchinis, and hopefully you can kind of see we sort of scored them out the middle. So I just cut them down, just took a spoon and kind of scraped out the middle and got all the seedy stuff out and made a little well for our innards to go into. So we've got those sitting there and waiting patiently for us to fill them. And then what we did next is we sauteed some of the vegetables. So we got some garlic and olive oil, of course. So we sauteed that up a little bit. Then we added in some mushrooms. Then we added in a little bit of red bell pepper. We sauteed that up, and then we added some seasonings, right? Got some salt, got some pepper, got some Italian seasonings in there because Italy is part of the Mediterranean. So yes, right? Very, very helpful. So we've got some of our vegetable flavor here. It's going on top of our vegetable flavor. So we like that. But then it is going to be cheesy. So we've got some ricotta cheese here. We're going to go ahead and start putting this guy together. I've got a cup of ricotta cheese. So we're going to put that into our bowl. We'll get that going. We've got a half a cup of some shredded mozzarella. There we go. So we're going to get that guy in there. And then a quarter cup of some Parmesan. Okay, a lot of good flavor with this guy. So a quarter cup of the Parmesan. We're going to get that going in. I'm just going to stir that up a little bit. And then we're going to add our sauteed vegetables into this. So nothing too fancy or complicated here, really. Once you get the vegetables sauteed, that's probably one of the longer parts of this, aside from just the baking in the oven. But you can even do that ahead of time if you wanted to, obviously, because we did. So we're going to stir this all together, right? So a lot of good flavor with this guy. And then I'm just going to go ahead and spoon them, or spoon the filling into our zucchini boats. So we'll set that aside here. Here we go. I'm going to pull this over. I'm just going to get a spoon. I'm just going to fill it up. I mean, you want to use it all, so be generous. It should be overflowing a little bit here, but try and kind of pack it in. I'll just keep going here. So kind of pack it in, but use it all. Don't be shy, certainly with this guy. And then when we're done with all of this filling, we'll just sprinkle a little bit of extra mozzarella cheese on top. That'll just kind of give a little bit of extra. That'll also kind of hold it together a little bit more as well. And honestly, you really could choose different vegetables. Like if you don't like mushrooms or you don't like the red pepper, you could choose a different mushroom to saute in there. You don't have to use exactly what we use. I mean, kind of one of the essences, if you will, of the Mediterranean diet is that they do focus on a lot of plant foods. And so they have a lot of vegetables. And so we want to, try and kind of honor that with our choices, but you can choose different ones just to make it to your liking. So there's a lot of flexibility here with this guy. I'm just going to go ahead and sprinkle a little bit of mozzarella cheese. Right? Yes. So if you like cheese, this one's for you. So good. Yeah, so good. Creamy, little bit salty with the Parmesan and the mozzarella. So there we go. Got a little extra. So here they are. You know what? I'll hold one up as best as you can kind of see. There we go. Sort of. Yeah. The light washes things out. So what we're going to do now, toss it in the oven. We're going to let it go at 20, 25-ish minutes, really until we're starting to get some browning and a little bit of bubbling. We're starting to get a little bit of softness on the zucchini. It's also going to depend on how al dente or more well cooked you really like your zucchini. So the time can be a little bit flexible there with that. But we're going to go ahead and stick these into the oven, and then we're ready to move on to the next one. So time for a commercial break. I'll be right back.
All right, everyone, back for a break already. Nice, smooth class. This is one of my favorites. I know last year we did a little bit different for April, focused more on Italy, but still one of my favorite ones. So we're going to talk about, of course, right? This is a class for those of you having to have some touch points before your surgery. We got to learn something besides just how to cook some awesome recipes. And what better topic than to talk about what even is the Mediterranean diet? Most of you have heard it before. You've heard it on the news that Mediterranean diets are healthy. Like Jen mentioned, they are a little higher in fat, but there's a lot of research out there that talks about fat not being the bad guy, right? People are oftentimes afraid of fat, thinking that fat makes you fat. But as we talked about yesterday, some of you were in our Starting Strong class, but just talking about healthy fats and how they are utilized for energy quicker, oftentimes even than the carbohydrates. The carbohydrates, especially from refined flours and sugars, are oftentimes stored for later. Darn it, they are. And we know what storage for later looks like, right? Excess body fat typically. So the Mediterranean diet, by definition, is a diet based on traditional foods of the countries bordering the Mediterranean. Well, makes sense, right? These include France, Spain, Greece, and Italy. And research suggests that people living in these regions tend to be healthier and have a lower risk for many chronic conditions compared to those of us that follow the standard American diet. And so it typically encourages, which you'll see today, lots and lots of veggies for sure. And also whole grains typically, but we aren't going to be cooking with whole grains today. The Mediterranean diet also focuses on legumes. We will be later in our recipe that we use hummus, which garbanzo beans or chickpeas, whatever you want to call them, is a legume. Nuts and seeds are an important part of a Mediterranean diet. The heart healthy fats, like we talked about, the feta cheese, the Parmesan, the olive oil, things like that. And also lots of herbs and spices. And then definitely less processed foods. You won't find anything here that we got. We did buy a spaghetti sauce, but it's just tomatoes and seasoning and a little bit of olive oil in it. It's not anything highly processed like a cracker or a cereal. Or a hot dog. Those are kind of the most processed foods. And then also those people in the Mediterranean region limit their alcohol consumption and their refined, again, grains and sugars. And what they really find is this helps promote weight loss, and it helps heart and stroke and type 2 diabetes and really reducing that risk of premature death. So it is ideal even in your weight loss journey. It can be quite non-dairy for some of you that are non-dairy. Obviously not the cheeses, but the olive oil and the nuts and the olives and all of that sort of thing, and the fish. So I'm waiting for my signal, but I'm not there yet. Oh, I got the signal. All right. We're going to head back over to Jen in the kitchen to see all about eggplant and eggplant parmesan. All right. Here we go.
All right, we are moving on to our next recipe, which is eggplant parmigiana. So So specifically grilled, or we'll say sauteed in our case, the eggplant. So instead of putting a breading on it, which is often how it's prepared, we're not including that part, but we do want to make sure that we have some flavor from our eggplant. We kind of infuse a little bit in there, that we get some of the moisture out. Eggplant is kind of wet. And so when we cook with it or we bake with it, it releases a lot of that moisture out into whatever it's sitting in. And so in addition to trying to put more flavor onto it, we also needed to dry it out a little bit. So we sauteed ours in some saucepans. You could grill it, kind of like, you know, what the instructions say. So if you have a grill or a smoker even, just want to make sure you get some oil on that guy. So we got our little grilled slices here, nice and tender for our eggplant. And then really all we need to do with this guy, once that is done, is just assemble everything. The one extra little flavor layer that we added into this was the sauteed onion. Obviously, tomato sauces or the marinaras, they have a lot of that flavor already added, right? The onion, the garlic, whatever herbs might be in there. But we just really felt like some additional sauteed onions could really kind of bring it up a little bit. And so we also sauteed some onions, chopped onions ahead of time, and then just put that into the marinara sauce. That way it's not another thing that you're layering in with everything. It'll just naturally be there. So what I have done is I have put a little bit of tomato sauce already in my pan. So 8x8 or 9x9 inch pan is what you want to have. And in order to keep your eggplant from sticking really to the bottom, we just want to have a little bit of layer of sauce is what we want there. And then we're going to layer it like a lasagna. So this is our healthy lasagna, if that's how we want to call it. But we're going to go ahead and layer these guys. You're probably going to get, I don't know, 3 or 4 layers probably with all of this put together. So we'll put down some eggplant, and then we're going to put in some of our sauce. And we're just going to go ahead and assemble this guy together. So fresh basil, you could, if you don't have fresh basil, you can't get to it, you could just sprinkle in a little bit of dried basil. That's okay, right? So we make do with what we have. So that is totally fine. And then we've got some fresh mozzarella. Again, if you can't get the fresh mozzarella, I had one try to join ranks with my basil there. If you can't get fresh, it's okay. Just use the regular shredded up, right? So we want this to be easy. I don't want to have any barriers there for you. So we're just going to go ahead and keep layering this guy up here. And then all we got to do is toss it in the oven. I mean, it's pretty easy. Once you've got the eggplant done, the rest of it is just a little bit of assembly. You could even, I think, make this like assemble it ahead of time. And then if you needed to come home and then just pop it in the oven, you could certainly do something like that. And that would save you a little bit of time if you've got a home, coming home from work, tight window kind of a situation. Definitely you could do that. I don't know how about you guys, but I often have that. I need things to be kind of quick and easy for me, because sometimes I'm coming in hot and I just got to get something on the table for the fam that isn't always, you know, pickup or processed or something like that. I mean, you know, we're trying to eat good food here. So sometimes we have to prepare ahead and then do our future selves a favor, as I like to say, and have something there ready and waiting to go. I'm saving a little bit of my tomato sauce there just to put a little extra on the top. So we've got a lot of plant foods in this. I don't know if you guys have heard about the recommendation to try and get 30 different plant foods in per week. That is what the research is saying is really, really helpful to a healthy microbiome. So if you want to try and feed your microbiome, you want to try and have a variety per week, not per day, right? For some of us, that would feel like a lot. But if you can do that, then you really, really are keeping a healthy microbiome. And I know that's not necessarily what we're focusing on today, But the gut is like the center of your life. So if we are getting a lot of different plant foods in, we're really keeping our little communities that live down in our gut happy and healthy. And they like to keep out the bad guys and support our immune system and keep our brain happy. So many different benefits that we get from that just by trying to eat a variety of plant foods throughout the week. So there's my soapbox and my spiel for that. So all we got to do now, I mean, this guy is pretty much just needs to warm up. So 15, 20 minutes in the oven, about 400 degrees is going to do it. So it's not going to need a lot of time in the oven. We'll pop it in the oven. We'll get it all melty and gooey and heated through, and then it'll be done and ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and get this guy in the oven. I'm going to pass it back to Amber for our commercial break.
All right, we're just going to keep talking about Mediterranean food because why not? It's so awesome. We're going to talk, here's some basil and some feta cheese and some fresh tomatoes. It looks like, oh, pine nuts too. We didn't have anything with pine nuts. That would have been awesome. I love pine nuts. But overall, basically, I mean, the bottom line is it's super healthy. I had a patient tell me recently he was recommended by his doctor to start the Mediterranean diet, but he said, I can't do it because I don't like olives. Well, I get it. Okay. That's one thing on there. I mean, there's tomatoes, broccoli, kale, spinach, onions, cauliflower, carrots, Brussels sprouts, cucumbers. There's a lot besides olives, right? Apples, oranges, strawberries, dates, figs, things like that are also, I mean, dates are high in sugar. I get it. We try to help our patients in the bariatric department not eat a ton of even natural sugar, but those are all things that you can have. Nuts and seeds, as long as you don't have a nut allergy, of course. Almonds and walnuts and macadamia nuts. It's just makes me hungry even saying all these things. Legumes are also so good and that they really help us. I mean, this is the bottom line too. When you look through all the foods in the Mediterranean diet and what we're cooking with today, like Jen just was talking about, our guts and our brains are connected to the health of our gut. And I think, so much more needs to be done when our kids are being educated, because we grow up, eating a certain way, whether it's how, we grew up with our parents or what we see on TV and everything. And we really miss the key piece of eating whole foods, right? Eating food, really, it's what it is. It's actual food. It's not processed. It's, if you can, obviously canned or frozen broccoli, things that make our lives more convenient. Those are still whole foods. Those aren't processed. They're called minimally processed because I don't know about you, but having a cooked rotisserie chicken once in a while is quite helpful. So that is, of course, minimally processed because it's marinated and spiced, and I didn't have to do that. So it saves time. You can still eat quite healthy nowadays without chopping up your own broccoli. They sell it in a bag. It's all chopped up. So there's ways that we can still eat healthier, have those things on hand. I do have, a shopping list here that you can have, just trying to really increase those vegetables. I think that's key. I had to chop up some vegetables for an event yesterday, and oh man, now we have these awesome chopped vegetables that we're able to snack on today. And it's just nice to have that available. And if you like me, I like to dip. So I love hummus. So dipping some fresh vegetables with hummus, it's a great way to get in your veggies. First of all, before you know it, you'll have a lot of veggies already in. And then also getting in those healthy fats, like the chopped veggies that I have. I drizzled some olive oil and balsamic vinegar on it. So it's also quite tasty getting some of that in there. So again, we like to talk about the benefits of what we're doing always. And then in our next break, I'll kind of talk about snacks, because a lot of you work from home or you work traveling and you need some ideas for what to snack on. So in the next break, I will be talking about that.
All right, we're back. We're moving through these kind of fast, right? But the first couple they assembled quickly and then they just went right into the oven, which is great, right? That's how we like it. But we're going to move on to a stir fry. And most of us, I'm sure, think of Asian, right? Because that's often what our stir fries are. But a stir fry really can just kind of have any flavor profile that we want it to have. And so what we'll have today is a Mediterranean stir fry. So we're going to include some more Mediterranean flavors and ingredients in here to give it that vibe and that flavor profile. So we've done a little bit of prep here, of course. So what we did is we started off sauteing some onion and garlic with some olive oil. And once that started to brown a bit, then I added a pound of lamb. Now, if you don't want to have lamb, if you can't find lamb, you can certainly just use ground beef. You could probably even use ground turkey or ground chicken if that's really more what you prefer. But if you like lamb and you can find lamb at the store, we bought ours at Walmart, Winco, Fred Meyer. You can find it for the most part at regular grocery stores. It really just has a unique flavor profile that's different from the other meats that we usually eat. And so it really brings that out with it when we add the seasonings and the other flavors to it. So if you're up for it, I would highly encourage you to give it a try. So what we did is just added in the pound of ground lamb and just broke that up and browned it. So we've got our bowl right here of our ground lamb, all nice and browned with our onions and our garlic there. So some really good flavor going on there. And then once we remove that, and you'll probably have to drain a lot from the pan, depending on how much fat comes in your lamb. Ours had a little bit more. So I drained that off from my saucepan when I removed the lamb from the pan. And then put a little bit of olive oil back in the pan and I sauteed the vegetables up. So the recipe calls for zucchini and some red bell pepper. And we saute that up. However, we had some leftover mushroom from our zucchini boats that we didn't have any other use for. And stir fries are kind of like a kitchen sink, right? You kind of grab and you just put it all in a pan. So I thought, well, we'll just use the mushroom too. I mean, why not? Then we've got something that we're using it for, and it's not just going to go into a bowl in the fridge. And, but you can, of course, you can use mushrooms for a lot of different things. But I just thought, why not include it in here? We'll just go ahead and get it used up, waste not, want not. Gave that a little bit of time on the stove top just to kind of brown and reduce down a bit. So that's what we have ended up with there. We've still got a lot of good color in here, which I think is really, really nice as far as a visual, but I've got some nice browning, a little bit of that caramelization, right? We like that browning. That adds a lot of flavor. So what I'm going to go ahead and do, I'm going to add my seasonings. We've got several in here. I've got salt and pepper. I've got some paprika, some cumin, and then I think oregano. Yes, ma'am, that is what I have. So I'm going to go ahead and just mix this in here now with my vegetables. We'll kind of get those coated up and looking good. And then we'll add in our meat. It's not going to take too long here to get that all mixed together. And then last, I'm going to add some tomatoes. Tomatoes, not maybe something we would normally add to a stir fry. They're a little more delicate, right? But we have some cherry tomatoes. We have some cherry tomatoes and we halved some cherry tomatoes. And I'm going to put those in last, just, to kind of help them keep their integrity a little bit. But I want them to warm up and just get a little bit wilty, I guess we could say. I don't know how we want to describe that, but we want them to soften a little bit, become a little bit tender, and kind of meld in well with the textures that we've already created in here in our stir fry. So this one I think is a really, really great recipe that you could, again, you do some versatility with. You can change up the meat if you want to. You could change up the vegetables a little bit if you want to. It doesn't have to be the vegetables that we chose. They're just some fairly stereotypical kind of vegetables that we might see from that area. But, it is an area, a whole region. And so there's going to be some differences, of course. And then there's what we have access to here in America. So, so feel free to mix it up a little bit. But the olive oil and the particular spices are going to bring a little bit more of that unique flavor combination, as will, quite honestly, the lamb. One of my favorite things actually is meatloaf made with some lamb. It's really good. Mix in some feta and some Kalamata olives in there. It is good stuff. So once we've given this a few minutes to combine, come together, get all nice and well dispersed with all of our ingredients. We got a couple different ways we can serve it. Obviously, you could just eat this, right? Stir fry, it's the combination of meat and a bunch of vegetables. That's exactly how we teach you guys to eat, is a protein and produce. We've got a variety of produce choices in here. So it could just go into a bowl and you would be good to go with that. If that's not maybe how you would like to eat it, or how maybe your family would like to eat it, you can certainly put it on top of a few different options. Depending on where you're at, most people think of rice, but for a lot of our patients, rice doesn't feel good. It's kind of too starchy. It just doesn't always work well with their digestion. But for family members, that could be an option. Some family members need that or like that, and that's totally fine. I think quinoa could be a great choice here. Quinoa is higher in protein. It's higher in fiber. And then we can add just a small base, right? It's not going to be like a big bowl of quinoa and then a little tiny bit of stir fry on top. Stir fry is the main event. The quinoa underneath is just kind of like a little foundation to put it on top of. And then you certainly could do, I think, roasted cauliflower or cauliflower rice could be really good here, especially since one of our other recipes calls for roasted cauliflower. You could just do a big tray and toss this underneath on that. But the cauliflower rice for a lot of people would be kind of a nice one. Amber also reminded me that hearts of palm, and maybe she can talk a little bit more about that. Could be another option for a base with this guy. So you have some options. Really great for leftovers. Toss it in a container, heat it up the next day. Really, really easy peasy. But this is it. This is our guy right there. La la la. There we go. Yeah, nice and warm. This, I think, was probably the favorite when we shared it with our friends in the office. I think this was the one that everyone liked by far the best. And I think because of the spices and because of the lamb, that just really was a unique flavor that people really like. So highly encourage you to make this one. But we got it. We got through this one. We technically only have one more recipe left. It's really two recipes, but it comes together as one dish. So I'll pass it back to Amber.
And just about the hearts of palm, I just had it for the first time, honestly. They sell it at Trader Joe's. They also, I'm sure they have it in some of the different cultural departments in like Albertsons or Winco. I don't know that it's riced. Trader Joe's sells a riced version. It was really, really good. And hearts of palm is the edible inner core or the heart of certain palm trees. It's a vegetable and it's literally has like zero calories. I don't even know. It has fiber, of course, and it has a kind of a sweet, nutty flavor, but it's kind of like riced cauliflower. You can add it, add some olive oil and spices and it takes on the flavor. It's just I used it for my husband made spaghetti for the family, but I just put the sauce with the sausage and everything on the hearts of palm, and it was really, really good. So has potassium in it and iron. And so, of course, it's so funny. I feel like such a cliche in this class sometimes. It's like, oh, it's really good for you. Everything we talk about is good for you because we're dietitians. So sometimes I like to talk about fun things. Like I promised you on this break, we were going to talk about snacks. So having things available, whether you're on an airplane, whether you're in a car, right? Handful of nuts. And I mean a handful, right? We don't want to just keep eating nuts. We made last month roasted garbanzo beans that are amazing. Substitute for nuts if you like that crunch, if you need some more fiber. 1 cup of peanuts is about 800 calories. Like that's a lot. But 1 cup of roasted garbanzo beans is like 240. So when we're talking about weight loss, there is something to say about high calorie foods. So we want to be mindful of that. But you can have a little baggie of baby carrots with some hummus with you, some mixed berries, some Greek yogurt. Now I saw they have what was it? It was a Chobani 25 gram. Goodness sakes, it almost as much as a protein shake in a yogurt. So, and like 8 grams of carbs. So having that with some mixed berries, have a small amount of grapes with a cheese stick, hard-boiled egg with salt and pepper. That's a little harder to travel with, honestly. I don't know. They're messy. So obviously being mindful of where you're at. If you can eat that in a car, I don't want crumbled egg in my car, but apple slices with almond butter or peanut butter or cashew butter. Some people who can't have nuts, sunflower seed butter is amazing as well. Some sliced bell peppers with guacamole. That's a yummy snack. Cottage cheese with fruit. Or one of our recipes we did a couple months, I believe it was in February, our dessert only month, we did a chia pudding. Wow. Now that's a great way to get some fiber in and to have a healthy snack. I know that that is something handy if you're going to be having, traveling or that sort of thing. So the key is planning ahead. And I know that's hard. We're busy planning ahead. I kind of peruse the airports when I'm there, and they have a lot of olives and, cheeses and charcuterie type stuff for our bariatric patients. So let's see. What did Peter, I got to pull up my chat. I see somebody chatting here. What does Peter said? He said, I love hearts of palm, rice and noodles made from it. It's actually pretty fantastic. Great carb alternative. Yes. They're tricking us though in the stores. I have so many patients like, how about high protein pasta? Well, yeah, it has more protein in it, but it also has a ton of carbs, some of those starchier versions. Peter says snacking healthy. Oh, you guys can see the chat. What am I saying? I'm telling me and Jen. Snacking healthy through the day. Also encourage you to eat less. Main meal times, yes. So 5 smaller meals a day instead of 3 larger ones. He states he's lost 70 pounds in the past 2 years, leaning on that concept. That's amazing. Wow, that's a lot of weight. That's awesome. I think Jen is ready. She's just, I'll talk more about traveling in the next break, but we're going to put it on over to Jen.
All right. I'm taking it back. It's time to come back to the kitchen. So we've got one more meal, I guess we could call it. Technically 2 recipes, but what we're going to do here is put together a Mediterranean bowl, right? So bowls are kind of the thing. Bowls are super handy. They're a great way to get a good mix of a lot of different variety of things and flavor profiles. And so, of course, we're doing a Mediterranean bowl. That's what we're doing. But this one comes with a dressing that you can make yourself. And so, of course, we did that ahead of time here. And nothing too fancy here with this guy. It does take a couple of olive oil. So this is more of a vinaigrette right here as opposed to something creamy. But we've got a couple of olive oil. Very good for you. Then, of course, we've got a little bit of some vinegar. Red wine vinegar, white wine vinegar, either one would be fine. I mean, if you just had another regular type of vinegar, white vinegar or something, I'm sure that would be just fine with all of the other flavors that go in here. But I got to read it because there's so many, but it's good stuff. So we got the juice of 2 lemons. We've got the zest of 1 lemon. So it does have a little bit more of a lemony flavor profile. It's not going to have quite that Italian dressing kind of vibe, but I think the lemon really kind of changes that. So if you're not a huge lemon fan, you can certainly cut back on that. So it's not quite so lemony, but it's got a really kind of fresh, nice sort of vibe here. We've got a little bit of Dijon mustard, a little bit of sweet. Okay, so just a couple teaspoons of some honey or maybe some sugar-free maple syrup. So it's really just enough to kind of help balance the flavors, the acid, the savory. We need a little bit of that sweet in there just to kind of have a nice balance overall. Of course, we have some garlic, right? Garlic is amazing. So we've got a couple of garlic cloves minced and put in there. And then we've got some dried oregano, dried basil, and then of course a little bit of salt and pepper. And all of this can be put into a bowl. You can whisk it up. You can pour it all into a jar, put on the lid and shake it up. That's one of my favorite ways because of course with a vinaigrette, you have to reshake it or re-agitate it every single time you use it. So I got my little spoon in here to kind of stir it up before I end up pouring it. But let's get on to the bowl. So a lot of the bowls have a base, noodles, rice, again, something starchy, probably things that we're trying to minimize or avoid depending on where we're at in our journey. And so we wanted to do something a little bit different as far as the base goes. Of course, you could do the roasted or the cauliflower rice. I think that would be a fine choice. But we thought, well, I think some roasted cauliflower could be kind of fun, a lot of flavor, a little bit soft, a little bit brown, just Just really, really nice. And you could choose something different. You could do roasted broccoli. You could do other roasted vegetables if you wanted to, and just plunk some of those in the bottom. But we've got about a half cup of our roasted cauliflower in here. And now my wrist is buzzing because it's telling me that the Parmigiana is ready. So let's pull it out, shall we? Okay. I'm going to do it without burning myself. Here we are. There it is. I'll tip it a little bit because it's a little soupy. So I know I put this on the instructions, but just as a reminder, when you cook the eggplant, it's going to kind of juice out into the dish. So if you want to give it some time, it will re-soak up or reabsorb some of that liquid that it let go of, and then you won't have quite such a watery product. So definitely give it a little bit of time to sit and think about it, what it's done, and maybe reverse action on that guy. It'll still be warm in about 15 minutes. It'll be a little bit thicker. It'll be a little bit nicer to serve. Definitely, I noticed when we circle back and reheated it the next day, it was definitely thicker then as well. So you could even make and then just reheat. You could do something like that. But we're going to let that sit there and have its moment. We're going to continue to make our bowl. So we're going to assemble a few things in here. Of course, we're going to have some hummus, right? Like that's stereotypical Mediterranean, right? I got some garlic hummus. You can make your own if you want to. We bought some. You can get different flavors. You can get the plain. I just think the roasted garlic is really good. So we've got that, but you can get the roasted red pepper. There's like a honey and jalapeno one. My husband really digs that one. So there's some different flavors out there that you could choose. All up to you, but we're going to put in a little bit of hummus into this guy as we are building it. Then we got some tomatoes, right? Again, pretty stereotypical. So we have some little cherry tomatoes that we cut in half. And so I'm going to go ahead and put these in here as well. We'll kind of line them up in the middle. I'm going to make this pretty. It's going to happen. We got our cucumber, of course, another pretty stereotypical. This time we had the English cucumber. When we were making it the first time, we just had a regular garden cucumber. So whatever you prefer. But go ahead and get those tucked in there as well. I sliced these kind of thin so they would be delicate. So we've got our cukes. Yeah. Got our cukes going on. And then, I don't know. I think these are kind of polarizing, but some Kalamata olives. Those are, again, pretty stereotypical addition to a lot of more Greek kind of dishes, but Mediterranean. In some cases, you don't have to use Kalamata olives. You could use a different olive if that's what you prefer. You don't have to have the olives at all, right? Just because we're eating Mediterranean doesn't mean we have to include every single food that they include. We can pick and choose, and we can still mirror how they eat quite a lot, even if we don't like every single thing that they like or use in their region of the world. But we've got our calamatas going in. And then, yeah, a little bit of feta, right? Feta cheese. Got a little bit of this guy. I mean, I guess I had to think about it. Maybe goat cheese. I don't know if that would really go really well with this. But a little bit of feta cheese goes a long way. So I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle that here over the top. Bada bang, bada boom. We got it. So you could assemble this guy in a container. You could do a few of them if you liked this kind of a thing. I think if you were thinking about your protein, right, because this is a high plant food bowl, not a high protein bowl, but just add a little bit of some grilled chicken in here. If you liked the lamb, you could have a little bit of ground lamb in here. So you've got some different ways that you could add some protein to this if you wanted to, if you needed to. But we are going to put a little dressing on this guy. I think it's really good actually just by itself, but the dressing just adds a whole other layer to the flavors. And again, like I mentioned earlier, if you are trying to get in more plant foods throughout your week, right, this has garlic and several different herbs in it. And we technically have olive oil in here. Like that's several plant foods already. People forget about the herbs. Herbs are plants too, so don't forget about those. Those count when you're talking about all your different plant foods that you're trying to get a variety of. we can add the herbs and spices and we get to count those in, and that really can be helpful to us, especially if we can't eat a lot at one time. It really kind of helps get that count level up. So this is our Mediterranean bowl, y'all, right there. So we'll give Amber a few more minutes. We'll take a commercial break. We'll come back and we'll show you everything that we have made, take questions, comments, all of those sort of good things. So back in a minute, you guys.
Like I said in the beginning, we're recording. So if you know someone that you think would be interested and you want to share, we can send recipes, we record them and we post them on YouTube. So under St. Luke's Health System YouTube, if you click on playlist, you can click the playlist and you'll see Jen there on the bottom. Under bariatric nutrition, you'll see all of our cooking classes for over a year. I believe close to a year and a half now we have them on there. And so lots of awesome things. If you see one, you're like, oh, I want the recipes, just send us a message to the bariatric at slhs.org. The email is, I believe, on our last page. Actually, I don't even see it on our last slide. Whoopsies. I'll just type it in the chat. That'll be easier. Most of you know it, but we'll just put it in the chat real quick. I could have asked Maggie, but surprised she didn't beat me. She said, Maggie said, I found out how far feta cheese went last night, ... Decided to shake my container and the lid was not snapped. Feta everywhere. Oh my word. Yes. Yes, it's crumbly. It goes everywhere. Right. So, oh no, Peter said, Maggie, I did that a couple of nights ago with my pickled red onions. Oh, that's a little worse smell maybe than the feta. Okay, so last little bits for traveling. Plan ahead. Pack some healthy snacks in your cooler or lunch bag. Those meat sticks, the cheeses, the nuts, things like that. Keep your vitamins with you. Don't forget your vitamins when you travel, right? I bring them to work because I can't take them in the morning. I don't eat. I have a shake later, and that's when I take them is at my work. So does your hotel have a gym or a pool? Are there places to go for a walk? Those are the kinds of things you want to think about when you have to travel, right? Because you're going to be eating out more. So you need to be really mindful about moving your body. Let's see, aim to eat a well-balanced meal before you leave, making sure to have the healthy fat, lots of protein and fiber. And then also commit to limiting your indulgences. This is hard because when we travel for work or for play, you know, that's when we tend to indulge and then we sleep worse and all of it kind of adds up together. But trying to avoid alcohol and lots of sugar, sodas, juice, things like that. And then trying to really that plan ahead, looking at restaurants, trying to see what they have and focus on the vegetables and the protein. And then also lastly, just bringing other things to keep you occupied, like books, magazine, podcasts, having it all ready so that you're not distracted with, you know, just your phone or binge eating while you're watching Netflix because you're alone in your hotel room, right? Having some things to distract you can be really helpful. Well, you guys, it smells really good in here. I know we say that like every other week when we cook or every month, but it's hard, right? It's hard. I wish we could share it with everyone, but we shared the recipes. We do post all of our classes. We have our weekly healthy living coming up in May. We have every month, we have our support group on the second Wednesday from 5 to 6. And of course, our cooking class, usually the third Friday of every month here on YouTube. Okay, I'm going to send it on over to Jen, and then we're going to give you some minutes back to your Friday.
Okay, y'all, home stretch right here. We did it. It was great. Everything came out looking really pretty good. So we've got our first dish, which is our zucchini boats. So we've got those guys right here for you, right? All nice and cheesy and vegetable-y and very, very tasty. And then, of course, we had to get our eggplant parmigiana. So we've got that guy still gelling in our container, but there is that guy. This one's going to taste pretty good. I think you're going to appreciate the flavor, especially from the sauteed eggplant. It's really quite good. And just the sauce and the cheese and the fresh herbs, everything comes together really, really nicely with this one. So this is a great option as well. Here is our stir fry. Topped with feta cheese. Don't have to, but why wouldn't you? I mean, really. And we got a little bit of herbs on here, some parsley. That can really kind of liven things up as well, add a little bit of color and green. So this one, again, favorite. A lot of people like this guy. And then we have our little Mediterranean bowl. I will hold that up close for you. There we go. Yeah, all those different really lovely ingredients in there. Really handy, really easy. You could just make several at a time and have lunches or whatever it might be for the week. And then I'm going to add a bonus, but I'm going to ask for Amber's help with this guy. So she went to a dinner at her church last night, and it was a lot of Mediterranean style foods. And she just brought some vegetables and chopped them up. And then tell us what you did. She just poured, I think, olive oil and some balsamic vinegar on it.
Yeah,
There's a hand.
I just sliced up cucumber, tomato, and bell peppers, and then just drizzled some olive oil and balsamic vinegar on it. And they're really good.
Were there any seasonings on that?
Yeah, a little garlic powder.
Okay.
And salt.
And salt. That's pretty basic. And, I'm sure they were good then, but now they've been sitting in this acid and just softening and soaking up the flavor. So I thought they tasted really good. I had some vegetables for breakfast, we'll call it that, but really, really flavorful. Could go well on a salad, could go well just by itself, but just like another really easy way to prep some vegetables for yourself. If that's what you're looking for, just other interesting ways to get more vegetables into your life. So we are going to give you guys a few minutes back, aren't we? It's not a ton of minutes, but it's a few minutes. We're cool with that. I mean, we like you guys. We like spending time with you guys. But let's be real. Like, it's probably time to go, right? So any last words from you, Amber, before we call it a day?
Peter says, give yourselves a hug today and remind yourself that you're worth it.
Nice.
As we embark on this journey together.
Love it.
I agree.
Yep.
Wholeheartedly. Oops. Got the wrong slide up. There we go. Okay. See y'all later.
So long. Farewell.